Microsoft, and I'll be guiding you through this webinar, which is automated provisioning with Salamander Active Directory. I will just start with how we see our Salamander AD product. We consider Salamander AD to be more of a service than a product, as any updates, new functionality, changes or issues are all dealt with by us as part of your license. We have our OU structure set up here in my demo environment. It could be similar to what you have in your schools. Salamander AD obviously can fit your requirements for your OU structure. So what I'll do is take you through the student's OU structure. So Salamander AD on this demo environment is set up to use the academic year of the calculated year for a student. This can also be set up to use the year. So if you want to do year 7, year 8, year 9, use the national curriculum year instead of using the intake year, we can do that as well. Student accounts, we can create current pupils, future pupils, so students that have a start date, but it hasn't started yet, so we can create them in the future. For certain MIS systems, we can also create pre-admission students. So from SIMS, we can take the pre-admission students and create their accounts ahead of time. For instance, when they come in for a day in July before they start in September, we can create their accounts for that day and also ready for September. So I'll just look at one of our students that we've got set up here. We'll look at Aaron. So Salamander AD can set up pupils accounts however you see fit. So for this, I have just set his first name and last name using his preferred forename and preferred surname. This could be legal surname or legal forename, or a combination of both. I've set up his display name up using his full name. I've also prefixed this with his registration group. The description I have set up with the school name, and because he's a student, I've prefixed it, added the student. We can also set the office fields. So in this case, I've actually set it as a year 7 student. Obviously, Salamander AD takes care of when students move up. So when Aaron becomes a year 8 student, this will automatically change for his registration group and his year. Usernames can be set up on the fly, however you want to see fit to set them up. For this, I have prefixed it with the school name. In this case, it's school C. Their 2-digit intake year, in this case, is 16 for a year 7 student. The first 2 letters of their forename and the first 2 letters of their surname. We can also set the profile paths and logon scripts if you're using Roman profiles and logon scripts. We can also set the home folder with the drive letter and also where that connects to. So in this case, I've set it to students, the C of the school, the intake year, full intake year, and obviously their SAM account name. Now, obviously, we don't just set the home folders, we can also create them. So in this case, there's Aaron's folder. And we can also set the permissions on them. So obviously Aaron has full control. We can also add staff with read only if you require that as well. Email addresses again can be generated however you like. Obviously I'm using the SAM account name and then prefixing it with the school's domain name. This can be completely separate from SAM account name. We can do forename.surname, whatever your school requires. If you're on-prem Exchange, we will just use the create mailbox command to actually use your Exchange rules to set up this. Obviously, those that are using Office 365 and Google Apps, we can obviously create the attributes needed, so the email address, proxy addresses, mail nicknames if you have them. Now, similar to pupils, we have the staff OU. In this case, I have got two sub-OUs, one called support and one called teaching. The support obviously contains the support members of staff, and the teaching we created is the teaching members of staff. So we'll have one of the teaching members of staff here. Similar to students, everything can be, all the attributes can be provisioned. We have the staff code pulling through into the office field. One thing I didn't mention is passwords. Obviously, we can set passwords using the data from the MIS system, or just push a specific value or a combination of both. We can set it obviously so they can change their password on next login. We can set it so the user can't change the password or the password never expires. We can also set account expiries. So if we can set it so when they hit their end date in their contract, we can set that so then the account expires on that date. All the fields in Salamander Active Directory that we can provision, we can set rules on those based on conditions, and also if they're to be updated as the data in the MAS updates, or just enable that attribute to be set when the staff or student is first created. Has anyone got any questions at the minute about staff and pupils? Okay, looks like no one has questions about staff and pupil accounts right now. I forgot to mention as well that staff can be created in the future as well, not just current staff, but future staff. So we can create them ahead of time so they can pick up their details before they actually start. In addition to parents and staff, we can also create, in addition to staff and pupils, we can also create parent accounts, whether that be an actual parent account used for parent portals, or we can also create them as contacts. In addition to current pupils and current staff, we can also process the accounts when they leave in the data from the MIS. In this case, I have in my leavers OU, students and staff sub-OUs. In my students OU, I have two leavers, Aaron Williams and Alex Smithies. Now, when a pupil or staff member leaves, we can be set up to do anything you like. So in this case, what I've done is set them to disable, remove all the groups, move them to this particular OU from their normal intake OU. We can also set it to move the home directory to an archive server or share somewhere. We can set it to hide from the Exchange lists. And also on a few occasions we've asked to set them up so when they are a leaver, they get their Office 365 license removed. Has anyone got any questions about leavers and what we might be able to do? Okay, someone's just typing a message, so I'll just wait for 2 seconds. Okay, I've got a question. Does this automatically disable the accounts as well? Yes, it does. For pupil and staff leavers, you can disable the accounts, yes. Can you set the change to license to alumni? Yes, I think we should be able to do that. It's nothing been asked yet, but we should be able to if it's a different license. Okay, just another question coming in. Okay, a question. Hi, year 13, we keep the mailboxes for a year. Is this possible as an exception? Yes, we can add exceptions however you want them to be. So for in this case, we can create an exception for all of year 13 or all of year 12. They want to keep them open for whatever they might want to do after that. Or we can add a general rule to everyone to say keep their accounts for 7 days, 14 days, 21 days, and then process them on that the day after. Can we archive their home folders? Yes, we can. We can back up their home folders either as a zip, or we can just back up and move their home folders as is to an archive share somewhere. Is there any more questions on levers before I move on? Okay, I will move on. We're going to take a look at groups next. So I have several OUs, sub-OUs underneath my groups OU for several groups that we can do as part of Salamander Active Directory. Obviously, the base ones that we can normally do is pull the year for the student and create a group based on the student year data. So there's all the students of year 7. Groups can be set up however you like. We can set them up as global security, universal security, global distribution, however you want. For this purpose demo that I've set them up as universal security so they can be used as a security group and also a distribution group in Office 365. We can also create groups based on registration. So there's students of 8A. Obviously, as the data changes in the MAS system, we can then replicate that through to the groups. So if when the students move up a year, they will be moved up to the next year group. When the students are changed in registration group during the day, the next time we run, we will then move them from whatever registration group they were in to the new registration group. Of course, we've got our base groups of all staff, all students, support staff and teaching staff. Our most popular groups are class groups, which is obviously pupils or teachers as well of a class. So this is 10A-AR1. So in this class, I have all the students that take this particular class, and I also have the member of staff. We can have the staff member, the teacher in, or we can leave them out. Completely up to yourselves. Okay, subject groups. So teachers of a particular subject. So I have in here, I have any teacher who takes art. And we have the teachers of groups. Getting quite popular now that we have teachers of a certain student. So we have teachers of Lucy Delaware in 9D. So obviously all members of staff can email this group and email all the teachers straight away of all the teachers that teach Lucy Delaware. Other types of groups we can create, we can take pastoral data from Sims and create tutors of years, and we can take the pastoral house data and tutors of houses and anything to do with the pastoral data. Heads of house, heads of year. Has anyone got any questions about groups? Just looking through some of the questions that I've had. May have missed a bit. Is an issue if your MAS is one domain and students in another? No, this isn't an issue. We can deal with that. Do all the groups go in one address book? It depends on what you have set in Exchange and Exchange Online and Google Apps. Generally, when they're synced up to Office 365, they will go in the default global address book, but obviously we can run PowerShell to set them up in different address lists as you choose. Okay, is it a live group sync or done manually? It's not live group sync and it's not done manually either. Basically what happens is we run on a scheduled task time, and when that scheduled task runs, the groups will be updated, but it's all using live MIS data. Just to be clear, can you set up teachers of groups and mail enable them so effective you can send a message saying student X is hearing issues, please bear this in mind? Yes, that is exactly right. The teachers of groups are basically teachers of a student. Okay, there's another question coming in. What if a student turns up at 8 o'clock unexpectedly? Do they have to wait until overnight? No, all of our scheduled tasks obviously are scheduled to run on certain times, however you see fit. But if this does happen and a student turns up unexpectedly, you can actually manually run the tasks to then update the relevant groups and create pupil accounts and license them if you need to. How does staff account creation work? Okay, staff account creation works. It's different for different MIS systems, but for Sims, for example, we will need their contract start date to be entered. We can also, if you wanted to, pull out those that have a service agreement in Sims, that we can create their accounts as well. If you have any external staff that come in for a certain amount of months, then you can give them a service agreement and we can pull them through and create their accounts as well. And obviously for staff leavers, it's when they have a contract end date. Okay, there's another message coming in now. Can you create exam accounts? Yes, we can. There's a few ways we can create exam accounts. Obviously, if it's a certain class, we can use the class data from the MIS system and then create an exam account for every student of that class. We can also, if it's random students that you have in a CSV file, we can actually take that CSV file and create the accounts using that CSV file. Okay, another question coming in now. Creating parent accounts, how would this affect licensing? Generally, when we create parent accounts, there isn't a license in Office 365, if that's what you're referring to, for parents. So generally, those that want parents in Office 365 use them as a contact, and then we can create groups around those parent contacts. So we can create groups for parents of year 7, 8, 9, 10, parents of class 7A, AR1, When you say you, do we also have the ability to upload import CSV files? There's not an ability to do that as such. What will happen is we'll get a CSV file of you, we'll put it somewhere on the server that we can access it. And if you want to create manual accounts using that CSV file or exam accounts, we will set up a task to do that. And all you will have to do is add another row into the CSV file to add another account. And then when we run, we will create that account for you. So does it remove the ability to manually add AD objects? No. Basically, the way that we do it is when we come to install Salamander Active Directory, obviously because you have student accounts and staff accounts already in AD, what will happen is we will come in and use specific searches in our map files to find where these staff and students are. And what we'll do is using a unique ID from the MIS, and we'll add this to an attribute in AD for that particular user. We normally use the employee ID field, but we can use any field in AD to do that. And that's how we know that Joe Blogs in AD is Joe Blogs in Sims, or in Pass, or Progresso. So the reason is we don't touch any other account that doesn't have this ID. Okay, another question coming in. Okay, we've got a question about ISAMs. Integration with ISAMs, is it via the API or direct access to the database? We can do both. We have an API access for ISAMs. We've used this on a few sites already. So yes, we can do it via the API. Okay, another question, does it integrate with REMS? Yes, we do. We integrate with REMS, yes. Okay, is there any more question about groups? Okay, one more question coming in and then I'll move on. Okay, another question about MS Class Sync data. I assume that you mean School Data Sync or Microsoft Classroom. Yes, we have. We can sync with School Data Sync, and we can also create the Microsoft Classrooms ready to go. That will be covered in one of our webinars, which I'll touch on at the end. But yes, we can do that. Okay, a few other things that we can do with AD or the MIS is we can also pull photos for students and staff and push them into Active Directory for then use for Azure AD Sync, or we can push them directly to Exchange Online or Exchange on-premise or in Google as well. For certain MIS systems, we can also write back into the MIS. So for instance, we can take the email addresses of the staff and the pupils and write that back into Sims, for example. We can also write back in Sims, so user-defined fields in Sims. So we can take the username of a student and write that back into a user-defined field in Sims. Also specific to Sims, we also have the ability to create system users. So when a new member of staff gets created and gets their account, we can also then give them and create them account in Sims with a username and password to log on to Sims with the relevant permissions that you define. What I'll also have to mention, guys, is that not only obviously we can do AD, but obviously we can do stuff in Office 365 and Google Apps. Some of the stuff that we can do in Office 365 is we can obviously pupils and staff, we can license them automatically for you with any license that you want. And we can also disable any plan. So we can give student the normal standard student plan and disable Yammer, for example, or Skype for Business. Also, I know I've touched on this before with a question, but we can also offer SDS integration and Microsoft Classroom. And we can also do Class Notebook as well. One of the main things that we can do for Office 365, Exchange, and also Google Apps is the ability to pull timetables from the MIS for pupils and staff, and then push them into their relevant calendars, wherever that may be. For some MIS systems, we can also pull out, for example, Sims, we can pull out the staff diary and push that to every member of staff. We can also pull cover, so we can grab all the cover and push it to those relevant who have cover that day or that week. Also specific to Google, we can also do Google Groups directly, as well as Office 365 groups. And for Google, we can automatically provision Google Classroom as well. Okay, I've just had a quick question. How about school calendar? Yes, if this is just a normal standard shared calendar, we can pull the timetable data for whatever it might be, so Sims Diary, and push that into one calendar instead of pushing it to every member of staff. Okay, question about calendars again. When pushing calendars, do you push the appointment or can you put reminders on? Yes, any event we can add reminders. So obviously mainly cover we do this for. We can set the category colors as well. So we can give different subjects a different color. We can also, like I say, the reminders, set the reminders, but then say it's 15 minutes before the event starts that they get the reminder, or 20 minutes or 25 minutes. Okay, just another question coming in. Timetables, Google Calendars, yes, we do that. Yeah. Depend on the MIS is what we can pull out in terms of pupil timetables, staff timetables, cover, exams. But yes, it can go into Google Calendars, no problem. Do you have integration with Apple School Manager? Yes, we do. There's two ways we can do it. We can give you the automatically create the CSV files for you, or in the last week or so, we have also created the ability to do it via Apple's SFTP. So yes, we can do integration with Apple School Manager. Do groups get deleted automatically when students leave? Yes, they do. Class groups get deleted. Again, we don't have to delete them if you don't want us to, but we can. The teachers of groups, yes, they will be deleted as well. So if a student leaves and it's not in the data anymore, then they will be removed, yes. Okay, question about, can you provision distribute a unique OneNote file to each pupil annually? It's not something we've been asked, but we can certainly look at doing it. I don't see it as a problem. It just depends where that OneNote will be stored. Okay, another question from Andre. Removed or disabled? Groups wise, yes, either. We can do, we can remove them, or we can actually, well, groups can't be disabled. But we can certainly, if they're old groups, we could certainly just hide them from the address lists if you wanted us to. Of course, in answer to the OneNote distribution, I don't know if you've ever seen Class Notebook, but we can automatically provision Class Notebook, where it's a notebook per class, and the students have their own sections. So maybe worth looking into if you have not seen that before. That will be covered on one of our other webinars, the Office 365 one, which I'll mention towards the end. Okay, another question. If you're not a teacher of a student but wish to receive emails regarding any concerns, would you add the teacher to the group manually? Would it get reset every time the sync runs? Yes, if you added a teacher manually, it would get reset and that member of staff would be removed. However, we've got the ability to add ad hoc users to the groups, so then they won't get removed. Or additionally, we can use another data somewhere like the pastoral data to add heads of years into that as well. So not only is it teachers of the student, but it's a head of year for that particular student or a tutor of that student as well. So it could be just a complete mashup of several data areas. Okay, just waiting for a few more questions to come in. While the questions are coming in, what I might do is actually mention the other webinars that we've got coming up. So on the 21st of February, we have a webinar for Office 365 and everything that we can do in that with Salamander Active Directory. And also on the 1st of March, we have a Google Apps webinar, which again is to do with Salamander Active Directory and what we can do in Google Apps, or should I say G Suite. Both those are from 10 o'clock till 11 o'clock. Okay, question from Stephen. Can student OneDrives be mapped as users' home areas? We don't do it. However, there is a few free utilities out there that I've personally sent to customers to say, have a look at this. And there's also a few paid solutions that do it as well. I'm not sure about how well they work, but yeah, there's certainly some other companies that do that kind of thing. Yep. Obviously, as Darren says there, for OneNote, we do for our Salamander SharePoint product does do the individual OneNotes, but they do it in a SharePoint site. So again, I'm not sure about how that would work with actually adding it to the OneDrive of the user. Salamander Active Directory wouldn't do that because it's a SharePoint action and not a Salamander AD action. Okay, question. Can Salamander create the parent AD accounts and add the personal email address as a forward? Generally what we'll do in this situation is obviously create the parent accounts as contacts, which can then be synced up or used in Exchange or Google Apps with the actual email address from the MIS system. Okay, just waiting for a question to come in. Okay, we would like to give parents a single sign-on in different systems via AD, but when we mail them, it gets delivered to the email listed in the MIS. So what, would you like to set them up an email address in your own tenancy or? Yep. So yeah, we can create them as AD accounts, but obviously that email address will be whatever's in the MIS. But if you obviously you've got Exchange on-prem, we can create the email addresses within your domain if you wanted us to. For Office 365, I'm not sure how that would work because of the licensing issues. Okay, guys, is there any more questions, or is there anything that you would like me to go over again? Okay, question, do you write back to ISAMs? Yes, we do. There's several things that we can write back to ISAMs. The only thing with ISAMs, we don't do write back using the API. It's just direct database access at the moment. Okay, question, what is your licensing model? So the licensing model, basically, you get a license for the year, and basically that covers everything. So it covers the license of the product running, obviously any updates that we need, any new functionality, any changes that you want to make in your Active Directory, any new groups you want to add, anything. It's all done by us, and that covers you for the year. Do you have a student password facility for student and staff self-service? No, we don't, no. Again, there's other third parties that can do that sort of thing. Hi Chris, I missed the start. Will a recording of the meeting be available? Yes, there will be one on YouTube soon. If you keep an eye on the free webinars page on our website, we'll put a link on there direct to the saved recording. Okay, based on the number of accounts or the same cost regardless. So we've got a standard price model. So a standard secondary is £1,000 a year with a one-off cost of £400 for the install. And then obviously every year after it's £1,000. That's based on a standard secondary school. No matter how many pupils you have, it's just as long as it's a secondary. So it's not priced per pupil. Less for primary schools, yes. It is £500 a year for primary schools, and the install fee, I think, is £250 for the first year. Okay, just waiting for a question coming in. To be clear, the £1,000 includes any all changes or support for the year. Yes, that includes everything that you want to do. Even if you change and have a change of heart and go from Office 365 to Google, obviously anything we can do in Google, you will have access to. Okay, question, if we left after a year, what happens to our AD? Basically, it just stays as is. There will be no data come from the MS system because your license is expired. So anything else that we do will just not work. But it will stay as is. Okay, question from Dennis. What if you're independent reception to sixth form, same cost? Is that one MIS system, Dennis? Yes, yeah, it's the same cost. Can you enable litigation hold on bulk in Office 365? Yes, we can. We can run any PowerShell command against pupil and staff accounts. Would we need additional hardware or VM? No, it will sit on any server that you want it to sit on. It doesn't need a lot of resources. It's very, very, very low resource friendly. What is minimum AD level? Any. We can run on any functionality. We have some customers that are still in 2003, and we have some customers that are running 2016. Domain functional level. Here's a few questions coming in. Is there a user interface logs? There is logs. They are just text files with all the stuff we're processing. There will be a user interface soon. That is just to manage the logs and see them a bit more nicer than you would do sieving through a TXT file, because obviously it will be you'll be able to filter. That is coming soon. Okay, question. Can we Salamander automate a welcome email to the new user? It just depends. Obviously, when we create a pupil or staff that is in Office 365, obviously we'll have to have the user in Office 365 first because they won't have a license to have the mailbox to then receive the email. But obviously, if it's on-prem and we're using the create mailbox command, then yes, because obviously they will have a mailbox then we can send the email to. Most schools, what we generally do is when a new user comes in, we email to the IT support address or someone in the school with the details of the student and staff accounts. Sorry if I missed this, but can I handle instances of duplicate student staff names? Yes. So what we have is a system that if a student or staff username already exists, we will ask you what you want to do in that instance. So add a 1 or use 2 letters of the forename instead of 1 letter of the forename. And then it will just use that instead of the account name that should it be using. So yes, we have the ability to handle duplicate account names. Is there any input to AD computer accounts or just users? It's just users and groups. Yeah, we don't touch any computer accounts. Can we do mail merge for form tutors with passwords, etc.? Yes, we can. If you provide us a Word template, we can put whatever you like. So the username, password, their email address, whatever you like, into a Word document, which is obviously based on template for you. So it might have your policies and stuff. There's something that you normally give out to new members of staff and new students. We can automatically populate them, and then we can put them in a share somewhere and name them however you want them to be named. So we can use people forename, surname, we can use their account name. Yes, we can do that, yeah. Can home folders be moved to a different server when students move up a year? Yes, generally most schools will use the intake year, so they'll stay the same. But some schools do use it on actual NC curriculum, national curriculum year. So, but yes, we can move them up. We can also, if permissions get broken, we can also then re-add the permissions properly. We can rename home folders as well. So, question: how will you notify new users of their account details? It just depends on how your system and how you want to do it. But like I said earlier, that generally we just send an email to the IT support team or whoever it might be. Obviously, they have the account details and distribute them however they want. But like I say, if you've got on-prem Exchange, we can create the mailbox and then send them the email. But then again, they would have to have their username and password to then log into the email in the first place. Okay, when we have all new students creating the summer, would there be a way of creating new starter letters containing the log information? Yes, like I've just said, we can use mail merges on Word documents, but also when users are created, we will automatically create a CSV file and update that CSV file every time a pupil comes in with the date that the event had been created and their username and password and what registration group they're in and what year they're in. So you can use that CSV file as well if you wanted to. Okay, question from Chris. I might have missed this, but can it pull from permissions? Yes, Chris, it can. We can pull permissions from Sims and create their accounts. This can be based as well on excluding those that are just actually admitted. So they're actually going to be permissions, but they're admitted. But those that aren't past clearing yet, shall we say, we can add an exclusion on them so they don't get created, but those that actually in the permissions are admitted can be. Is there a system or portal to send our change request to? Yeah, generally what we will do is we will ask you to send support email address, an email to tell us what you want. Obviously, we'll get in touch with you to sort out access and exactly what you want to do, and then we will just hop on whenever it's convenient for you to do it. Okay, there's a question coming in. Okay, when you leave, it said it archives their home drives, but what about Office 365 Exchange emails and removal of mailboxes? Yeah, so what we could do is remove the licenses if you wanted to for Office 365, if that's what you wanted to do. Okay, do you have a roadmap site so we can see what's new that's coming up? Generally what we do, any new developments we post on our blog. So it's something that you might want to look into there to see what we're doing. Things like we've just done Microsoft Classroom and School Data Sync and Class Notebook in the past, all been posted on our blog. Okay, we PSD the emails from the mailbox to their home drive. Would this be possible? Yes, there's a few schools that are doing this. We can export their mailbox to a PSD file and then put it wherever you need it to be put. So for permissions, you could create the accounts in say July, and then users could use the accounts during visit, or other accounts, cash as current, etc. would be created that night. Sounds too good. Solves a lot of first week of term issues. Yes, it does. There's support gets quite busy come July for those that want to do the permission stuff or future pupils. Generally, for new installs, we're scheduling future pupils, or certainly asking schools if they want to do future pupils. Pre-admissions, generally we don't schedule to run. We can create it to the configuration for you, and then if you want to run them, the pre-admissions whenever you want to run the pre-admissions, when they're ready to be added, you can run it manually if you wanted to. Okay, question from Steve. How many of you supporting Salamander AD? So currently there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5? Yeah, 5 people supporting Salamander, just Salamander AD. Okay, is there any more questions? Yep, there is. Okay, is there no more questions? I mean, once I've wrapped up, guys, what I'll do is I'll sit on for 10, 15 minutes afterwards if you want to have ask more questions. But obviously, look out for the webinars if you're using Office 365 and Google. Look out for the other 2 webinars that are coming up on the 21st of Feb for Office 365 and Google on the 1st of March. But if there's no more questions, obviously thank you for your time. And if you obviously have any more questions after I've left, then you can email our info address, so info@salamandersoft.co.uk, and someone will get in touch with you as soon as they can. But yes, I will hang on for 10 or 15 minutes.